Hello and welcome to another anime lore and theory video. I'm Shergok, your host, and today we are going to take a closer look at some German elements and influences in Overlord. But before we're going to take a closer look at any of this, let me quickly thank my Patreons for supporting this channel, as well as say thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. And with that said, let's get to the topic at hand. Ah yes, Germany and Japan, a truly iconic combination, even outside of Hearts of Iron. And it's well known that many references to German culture, as well as British, Spanish and, for example, Portuguese culture, can be found in various Japanese media. For example, in Dark Souls 3, the Abyss Watchers are inspired by Portuguese elements and warriors. And they are also tragically sharing the same fate as their great role model in the world of Dark Souls, Artorios the Abyss Watcher. And by the way, the Portuguese who once invaded Japan and the legions of the Abyss Watchers who snuffed out entire kingdoms if signs of the Abyss were detected there have the same parallel going on as well in Code Geass. And this is not just a reference, it dives deeply into the British Empire and the British culture at large and colonialism, but there's still Lelouch v Britannia as a protagonist, and again its entire storyline takes far more than just a few influences from British history. And Bleach, apart from its cleaning product reference, incorporates many Spanish influences in its terminology. I mean, just look at the espada. And finally, in Overlord, characters like Remedios Custodio and Calca Besares clearly bear Spanish names. But also let's not forget the unmistakable German elements in Overlord. And no, this time I'm not talking about Pandora's actor and his uniform. I've covered that already. Today I want to highlight how a poem by Goethe inspired an entire arc in Overlord. And let me say right away, this isn't the first time Goethe's works have been incorporated into anime or manga as inspiration, or even as a direct reference. For instance, the anime Elfenlied is named after Goethe's poem of the same name, and its opening sequence leans more towards the 18th and 19th century than to the modern era as well. But there's another poem of Goethe that had a significant influence, not just on Overlord, but seemingly on anime as a whole. And of course, I'm talking about the Erlking, or the Erlkönig as it is said in German. And let's look at some context first. In this case, Earl refers not to a title, a lordly title, but to elf or fairy. So the poem speaks of an elf king. And Goethe's inspiration for it came from a personal experience, because he once saw a farmer riding into the University of Jena with his child under his arms to see the doctor there. And again, this inspired him to the entire poem. And now there's even a monument to the Erlking in Jena. In other words, the elf king in the poem represents a childlike, magical personification of death. And it's the child's way of processing the call of the afterlife and making it comprehensible for itself. At the same time, the father becomes increasingly aware that his child, like the delirious from high fever, is speaking incoherently. And imagine being a parent and hearing your own flesh and blood, your son, describing in vivid detail the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel. It would send chills down anyone's spine and evoke a deep unease that the father also expresses in the Erlking poem. So it's a metaphor for the imminent death of his son, this Erlking. And yet the whole poem carries also a magical undertone, seen through the child's eyes. The Erlking is a supernatural entity with the power to take life. In other words, it's really potent magic that the Erlking is wielding. Also, and please don't tell me I'm not the only one who notices this, the Erlking in Goethe's poem also sounds like a creepy guy standing in a dirty once-white tank top, and only in a dirty once-white tank top, near a children's playground, trying to lure kids into his white van with chocolate. And the offer the Erlking makes, especially the promises of his daughters, feels, let's say YouTube-friendly, very explicit to put it mildly. Especially for that time. And this motive has well been adapted several times in media, as seen for example in Sword Art Online, where the Elf King abducts Asuna for his own sake, and there it is up to the boy, aka Kirito, to save the day. And now, finally, with this context added, let's move on to the twist Maruyama-sama introduced into the Overlord novels. In Overlord, the Elf King is reimagined as Deikem Hugin, an arrogant and immensely powerful king, who is completely indifferent to the lives of his subjects. He uses his countless children as cannon fodder, sending them to the front lines of a war he started, in the hopes of finding one with the potential to become as strong as he himself is. And Deikem is so detached that he doesn't even understand why a grieving mother would mourn the loss of her child, or fling herself from high walls of his palace after she wept over her loss. He was just completely out of touch with the average elf. And when Deikem eventually encountered Mara and Aura, he recognized their strength. But instead of being humbled or intimidated by them, he declares that he has waited long enough for one of his children, or in this case his grandchildren, to show such incredible power. And now he intends to procreate with the only 76-year-old Aura to produce more powerful offspring. And in that moment, the real plot twist has struck out. Ein Solgon skeletal fist slammed directly into his face, because in Overlord, death is not personified by the Elf King, as it is in Goethe's poem, but by the undead overlord and sorcerer King Ein Solgon. And Ein then proceeds to weaken Deikem through the prolonged battle that follows, intending to deplete his mana completely and then to capture him. However, before Ein can do so, Deikem manages to flee. Severely weakened, he becomes an easy target for Mare, who then pursues him. But someone else gets to him first, and just like in Goethe's poem, the Elf King in Overlord has daughters, and he treats them horrible as well. And one of them, Zeshi Zetsumai, wields the scythe, Charon's guidance, a weapon tied to death itself. And the scythe originally belonged to Surshana, the god of death, worshipped by the slain theocracy. So Zeshi, seeking to avenge her mother, whom Deikem had kidnapped to produce her, finds the already weakened and gravely injured Elf King. And in an act of brutal finality, she crushed him under her boots like an insect. So in Goethe's Erlking, death is represented by the Elf King himself. However, in Overlord, the death motive is divided. On one side we have the sons, represented by Mare and Aura, and on the other side the daughter, Zeshi Zetsumai. And they inherited this shard of death. And this split shifts the theme of death from being embodied by the Elf King to being something that actively opposes him. And I think from a narrative standpoint, I think this is an extraordinary achievement as well, because not only does Maruyama-sama create a compelling, internally consistent story that seamlessly fits into the wider Overlord universe, but he also ties it into the broader conflict between the Great Tomb of Nazarick and the slain theocracy, while still giving this new context, this reinterpretation of the, by this point, let's face it, especially for Americans, ancient German poem. And he integrates it into this story so well that I just realized what he did. And in my opinion, this is nothing short of brilliant. And with that said, now it's your turn. Let me know what you think about my video, about the poem by Goethe, about the reimagining of the poem and integration of it into the wider Overlord story, and of course about the video itself. Again, down in the comment section. And I also have a fantasy channel, I have a German channel, I have an AI channel narrated by almost a woman, if you don't like my accent but still want to know what I'm talking about. Again, it's linked all down in the video description. And with that said, now it's your turn. Let me know what you think. Also, I say thank you very much for watching. I say thanks to my Patreons for supporting this channel. And as usual, I say my special thanks to Ada Daddy Ada, ASK, Bad Guy Ye, Bad Burrito 316, Beezer, Ben C, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley0221, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Dan Pep, Dragonlord Placido Saxophone, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Feral Shivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Lelouch V. Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Loverazer, Merovec, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, Oh Kill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantum, Personage, Ruru, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Cune Caracos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Sir Axolotl, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, Diorg Warboss, Rock Ed Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito 27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Zinukai, and Sonagon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.